avoiding more problems actually. So what is findability? Findability is literally the ability for users to find the content that they're looking for when browsing your website. Now, of all the findability problems, I classify those four as being the most problematic. So you've got information architecture, which is basically how information is located in your website. Category names, which are the names that you give to your categories and menus and navigation elements. Navigation itself, and links, the links within your website. Let's take some more practical examples. So, findability violations. I'm going to start with the first example, the one over here. I wrote no information sent. I mean, let me explain much better than that. Over here, you've got the read more. A typical link like read more, click here, find out. I mean, those types of links. They were much more common in the earlier websites, but still we find a lot of those links. By seeing that link over there, I mean, it gives no intuition to the user as to where they will get after clicking that link. So, read more. Read more what? I mean, what shall I find when I click on that link? Something better would have been read more to find more information about our company, which would have been much more helpful, much more usable. So that a user who is not interested in reading more about the company would not have clicked. It causes less frustration. The second one, it's not very clear from there, but it's about mysterious navigation. That's a Flash implementation of a menu. Actually, you need to hover with the mouse over those small boxes, and then they turn and they reveal menu items. Okay, it may look nice. It may be very complex to develop. It may be very difficult to design. Obviously, these are the merits that we usually associate with us developing and design companies. But still, is it usable? No. A user, to find out what's underneath the second row, second column box over there, would have to go with the mouse and it needs to hover. Moreover, that's designed in Flash, which has its own usability problems. I'll be speaking about Flash usability later on during this session. Third example, clutter. We find that a lot. You'll be surprised. I mean, okay, that website may look like from the 1998, 1999 period, but no, it's not. It's a very recent website, and I'll be showing more examples later on. Obviously, over there, information is much more difficult to find. The last one. Then again, it's a nice technique, obviously, having some JavaScript there and doing a 3-level menu. No. Some implementations actually are worse, because when you go here and you put the mouse cursor right outside, all this disappears, causing much more frustration. And users, if they're frustrated, they leave. Full stop. I mean, nobody is interested that much in you. Information. This is much more easier to explain, actually, because it relates to the information you have on your website. So it's text, images, media, all the content. Actually, content itself is one of the main segments of these of information. Then there is product information, which is basically the more information about the products you're selling, typically for e-commerce sites. Corporate information. It plays a very important role in usability, because corporate information is basically that information that relates to what we call the about us informally. Obviously, it's about the corporate information of the company behind the website. It creates problems because if it's not well explained, a user may enter your site and simply does not know what you do, what the site is all about. And obviously, there's an issue of credibility as well there. And prices. Then again, product information and prices are very closely related. I mean, especially with e-commerce websites. People going there, they want to see more of your products. They want to find the information, the technical information presented well. Or else if they just want a brief description, they have that brief description. And prices are very clear. Well, that's an example that covers all four aspects there. And surprise is from 2012. So that's a Danish website. No, it's not a screenshot from one of the magazines that we received. That's actually a website. Well, where to start? Information, clutter, products not conventionally placed, too much. Obviously, that is a total failure. And that is an actual e-commerce website. Search. With search, it's a very interesting example because it's quite clear to know where the usability for the search comes from. I mean, you have 18.2 billion monthly searches in the US alone. So it's very easy to understand that users expect your website search facility and your search engine results page, your SERP, to look like that of major search engines. Over there I have 4 screenshots of Google and the others, which, as you can see, they are very, very, very closely related in the design themselves. Common elements: search box, search button, search box, search button, search box, search button, search box, search button. It says something. I mean, users expect your search to look and behave like that of search engines. Actually, because between Yahoo and us, they're very even closely related with regards to the wording on them. You have the word search, which is basically that's what it does. So what will be classified as search usability guidelines? Definitely, it must consist of a text box where users can type in their search query. It must consist of a button, ideally called search, not find, not go, not the lens. I mean, the more intuitive, the better. I mean, if the user sees a search, they will understand what it is. You don't need to put in a label called search. You don't need to fill in that text box with text, because that's another usability problem. You don't need a link to a search page. Just place the search box, ideally at the top right-hand corner on all pages, because users will understand what search is whenever they see it. In fact, it backfires if it's not what they expect. The 20-character text box, it's a bit debatable. I just put it there for reference purposes, maybe. But the logic behind it is that the larger the text box, the better the users will be at defining their search query. So, if they define it better, it's likely that they will get better results in your search. So that helps a lot. It must search inside your site, your entire site, but not outside it. That's a very, very important thing. If it searches outside it, I mean, they have search engines. Users have search engines for that. So, there's no way. Some examples. Obviously, the first two are exactly like I was saying before. It's just a text box with a button called search. I mean, very intuitive, very simple to understand, nothing complex. It's there. Let me take the first example, the one with the blue icon and the go button. Over there, there's a label called search. I mean, why? You would understand that search if it looked like that. So why actually make it more complex for the users? Moreover, you have 2 buttons. Okay, the first one is an icon, but instinctively you will think it is a button, and the user may try to literally click on that. Also, the button, it's called go. Go where? Then again, it's a problem. And it's not located on the right-hand side. It creates unnecessary complexity for the user. If we take these 2 examples, this one and that one, the main problem there is that the text box is initially filled in with text. Some users will actually try and delete that text. And I've actually seen some implementations where if you start typing after, for example, the N of inspiration, it will literally append your text. So the likelihood is that the search will be flawed. This one. The main problem there is obviously that lens. It's actually not clickable even, so it further complicates matters. I mean, the developer behind, I'm using developer obviously just to blame us, is assume that users know they have to click the enter key. Not all users do that. The last one is a very interesting example because it's a search implementation with a filter. In that case, it's music. Now, the reason I put it there is not because it has that lens in the button. It's not that the problem. That is a problem, but I did not use it there. Or because it has a search written there. No, I used it because it has a filter. In that case, if you were to type in a text, a search query in there, and press that lens button there, it will only search in music. It's good, okay, that you're offering customized searches, filtering, but the problem is that by default, it does not search in the entire site. Now imagine you have a site like, say, Amazon. Until a few years ago, Amazon was more associated with books. And the person goes in there and tries to search for a CD. Probably it won't crop up. Why? Because The search will only search inside the book section, had it been selected as book. So ideally, first offer the possibility to search the entire site, and then filtering can be done if the user wants to. Page design. Now, this is the part maybe where we're all more familiar. So we're referring to graphics, the actual layout, the readability, and the scrolling. With regards to scrolling, I may add, in user experience, we have what we call, basically, I mean, it's in web design, but we tend to refer to it a lot, what we call the fold. Now, the fold is actually the screen, what you see on the screen. So, let's suppose this is a screen. The fold is here. All this is below the fold. So what would happen? Users can scroll, and they do scroll vertically, much less. They do scroll, they scroll much less horizontally, but they do scroll vertically. Still, it would be pointless from a usability perspective and from user experience perspective to put important information below the fold. I mean, why expect users to scroll down to find the important information? So scrolling does play quite an important role, and it is indeed a usability failure if you don't take care of it. Some examples. The first example, I tended to focus more on the typography here. So the first example, it's a nice clean sans serif font, Arial. I think it's 14 pixels, something like that. With a link that is quite clear where it will lead to, blue, underlined, and even over there I clicked on that link on purpose so that it shows that it changes color after visiting. All these conventions help. A user will see a link and will click on it. See here, this is much more difficult, for example, to notice. Click here, then again, click here for what? Is it a link? It's highlighted. The text is much more difficult to read, particularly because it's a bold over there. Another problem here, the text, black on brown. Very difficult to read. Why complicate stuff? Ideally, you need to make it as contrasting as possible. In an ideal world, in an ideal design scenario, you would do it black on white. I know it's not always possible because ultimately the client dictates. But the more contrast you create, the better. The reason why I put this example over here is text is all caps. Now, it's a very bad convention. I mean, if you type that type of text, it's like shouting. I mean, why are you shouting at your user? Apart, obviously, from the fact that it's much more difficult to read that text than that. But over here, it creates also a problem with the reputation of the company. The last one, it's not very clear from the example, but the reason why I did it there is it's a very bad implementation, actually, of fonts. Instead of using cascading style sheets, I don't know if you're familiar here, all of you, he just put an image. Now that is a problem over there, because the font was not a default font, I mean. So, we'll end up with a practical example, an analysis of a site. I took a site from 2011 actually, but it's still available right now. So, to have that guilty pleasure of criticizing the big guns. Xerox. So you would expect some studies has been done there, and believe me, that's a very expensive website. I will be covering an analysis using usability guidelines of that site. Starting off with number 1, logo positioning. The first thing that you need to convey to a user is what the website is about, why it exists in the first place. So site ID, or logo in that case, site identification, needs to be very prominent. Now, the placing is not that bad, but it would have been better had it been on the top right-hand corner of the site. Much better than placing your slogan before the logo. It's a very strange convention, actually. No search. Why? The first thing that the user does is that they will try and browse via the navigation. If they don't find what they're looking for, they will resort to search. No search, then leave. Another problem, the menu. It's disappearing, actually. It's disappearing over the worst kind of example, pop-ups. Why pop-ups? I mean, it's 2012 and we're still dealing with pop-ups actually coming from a company called Usability Sciences. Very ironic indeed. I mean, it's a very basic mistake there. Okay, pop-ups have evolved. They're nicer. They're using jQuery now. But still, they obstruct. Another problem, low contrast text. I'm sure that you're not seeing it very clearly from there, whereas you can see much more better the black on white. Low contrast text creates a problem. It's a shade of gray on top of gray. Too much importance. That's why we do have in HTML, we do have the H1, H2 tags. You need to prioritize. Over there, I mean, the 421 billion is actually bigger than the logo itself. So why? Another problem, I explained it before. The bad convention for links. It says go now. Go now where? To Michelin's website? No. Utility navigation. It's very badly placed. I mean, they placed it at the very bottom. I mean, why should a user literally have to go through all this information just to change the language? Top right-hand corner would have been much, much better. The image there is too large. It's occupying quite some precious real estate of the homepage without actually giving any added value. It's just an image of an office. Flash. The entire site is in Flash. Bad for search engine optimization. Bad if you don't have Flash or have a Flash plugin. You won't see anything. The entire site. Some of the other points. If you were to see the same websites on a 1024x768 resolution, this is what you see. So you have lost a lot of information vertically and horizontally. It's another problem in itself. Browser rendering. I won't be going on this, but obviously, you know, if you don't make it appear well on all browsers, it creates a lot of problems. Not all users use Firefox and Chrome, by the way. Devices. Sometimes we do forget that websites are also viewed on devices. Over here is the same website viewed on an iPhone. This is what you see. And an iPad. Scrolling problem is a bit less, but actually it's still there. You're losing a lot of information there. So, that's more or less about it. So, where do we go from here? There are a lot of online resources, books, journals, blogs, social networking sites. I find them very useful. There are some very good groups on Twitter and LinkedIn. Conferences, they do happen quite close to our shores. Obviously, something like this would be beneficial, but there's a very good conference happening in England as well. And I was thinking of trying to create a LinkedIn group, Malta Usability and User Experience group, maybe. We won't spam you, don't worry, so relax. I have my own blog, some very good guidelines there, resources, maybe they can lead you to more information that is readily available. It's UsabilityGeek.com. And those are my contact details. Please feel free to ask me questions, and I'll be happily redirect you to additional resources. Thank you.